Right, good morning. This is an engine which needs no introduction. As I'm sure most of you know, this is a Mamod SE4 model. To many it represents the pinnacle of pre-war Mamod engines. So before I actually steam this lovely engine this morning, I'm just going to go through a little bit of the detail of the SE4, because it does tend to get rather confused and clouded, and sort of misinformation about these particular engines along with its hobbies counterpart tend to prevail, certainly on some internet forums. So what I thought I would do is, since it's the Christmas period, and I've actually got some time on my hands to photograph and run some of these engines, I thought I'd sort of go through a definitive list of pointers on the SE4 engine itself. Now, first of all, the SE4 was introduced in 1936. It was introduced as a hobbies engine. This was the first engines which Geoffrey Maylands was asked to make for the Hobbies Company in Dereham in Norfolk. He made around about 580 engines that year. Apparently they weren't brilliant, according to his own quotes. However, the foundations were laid then for the Mamod company. So the 1936 SE4, the Hobbies SE4, was finished in these particular colours: dark red, dark green. However, it had no displacement lubricator or whistle. Obviously, it was badged as Hobbies. So that carried on all very well in 1937, with Geoffrey Maylands making the SE1, the SE2, the single-cylinder SE3, and obviously the SE4. Early engines also featured what you call cast cylinders. These are three-part soldered cylinders. The very early ones almost look like they're almost shaped and drilled from one solid piece of brass. They're quite easy to spot if you should actually see one. You only tend to see them on very early engines. Anyway, by 1937, Geoffrey Maylands realised, obviously, that he could make more money, let's say, by running a range of his own engines, and he decided to call them Mamod, obviously with the May coming from Maylands and the Mod coming from models. And in 1937 he introduced his own range of engines. Now these were almost identical to the Hobbies engines. However, they were all painted using a light green and a lighter red, and obviously they were badged Mamod also, with the logo taking a very similar look to the Hobbies roundel. However, the Mamod or Mamod SE4 featured the displacement lubricator and the whistle. It also had lighter engine frame paint and lighter green engine frame, sort of very similar to this colour combination here. However, that was all well and good, and you could easily then differentiate the Mamod engines from the Hobbies engines. However, in true Mamod fashion, things got a little confused, and in the intervening years up to the run-up to World War II, it was very much a tendency that engines were just sort of get them out the door, get the money in the bank, in order to keep the small fledgling company going. So the problem is then we tend to find is we have Mamod engines going out with Hobbies colours, as this particular engine is testament to. This is badged as a Mamod, but obviously it is clearly in the Hobbies darker colours. Bear in mind also, by 1937 the Hobbies SE4 had a displacement lubricator and a whistle, and apparently then that makes the identification of them even more complex. You could also get Hobbies engines in the lighter engine colours. Basically, it was just down to simple badge engineering. Now, I've seen recently on a couple of parts of the internet where someone has said, basically, if an engine is unbadged but it's in the darker colours, therefore it must be Hobbies. That is incorrect, I'm afraid. The simple fact of the matter is it is very, very difficult to work out which one is which. Unless it's got the remains of a decal on there, or in some cases if some of the base plates are stamped Mamod or Mamod, then you can roughly work out what make the engine is. But apart from that, it's absolutely impossible. The pre-war years are difficult enough as it is to actually work out what is what, and to actually say an engine is a particular brand just by the colours, although it initially stood up by the run up to 38, 39, it was impossible. In total, Mamod made about 1,500 of these, along with the very rare SE4, which is a cut-down engine frame, so it has no countershaft, and it has the C1 line shaft attached to it. A much cheaper way of using up components, saving on materials, and I don't know what the actual production run for the SC4 was. I would say it would be a lot less than obviously 1,500. The particular engine used the same width sort of line shaft, base plate to match that line shaft, so it's 13 by 15 Meccano spaced holes. Very similar, the same size of the base plate to that 46 SE2 behind. The engine itself used a 5-wick burner, although the SE3 did use a 4-wick burner, which is very difficult to get hold of. And I've seen an SE3 recently that a member of my Freesteam forum has presented, which is being rebuilt at the moment. Again, that one's in the darker colours, but I've been unable to identify whether it's a Hobbies or a Mamod SE3. Now this particular one, I've gone around this morning prior to, I'm going to steam it a little bit later, and given it a thorough oiling. I tend to find that these earlier engines benefit from a really good once-over, certainly in the case of the SE4, where we've got the displacement lubricator, we've got oiling points, 4 oiling points on the cast, or sand cast engine frames, as well as obviously a thorough oiling of the pistons, the connecting rods, and in the case of this I give all the brass tools a very, very thorough oiling. For the simple fact is that I tend to find these run a lot better. The pistons on these are grooved pistons, and they do have graphite twine around them, which does help a lot with packing out the cylinder and also aiding the actual lubrication of the actual cylinder itself. I tend to find these run rather messily, as most people who own SE4 will testify. However, that oil does tend to get to the parts it needs to get to, and obviously to keep everything running smoothly. This particular model of mine had a new boiler earlier on this year, so now it has the correct whistle and also the correct 1/4-inch threaded overflow plug. This is running a reproduction 5-wick burner, and it's on my usual Meccano base plate, and it's connected to a set of tools around about 1948, although the polish is probably immediate post-war. That sits on a flat base itself. As you can see, the line shaft is a flat base cast iron pedestal version, and you will also notice, although this is 1948, it is still using the pre-war decal. Quite rare to actually see that. And something collectors should also look out for as well is this. There we have a 1948 press or punch, and for some reason it has a decal applied to the underside. I've never seen that on anything else. Perhaps someone just decided to do it for a laugh, or inadvertently had one of the decals ready and didn't know what to do with it. Apart from that, everything else is as you would expect on a standard SE4, twin cylinders, twin union nuts, inlets, everything bolted down, displacement lubricator. Some people say it's fitted wrongly. I don't know, oil floats on water, but also as if it was the other way around, all the oil would be blown through straight away. So it does have some lubricating tendencies, so it's better than nothing, I suppose. Like I say, this one's finished in the darker colours. It's badged as Mamod. The underside of it is dark as well. You tend to find the Mamod ones were light on the top side, dark on the underside. Another telltale giveaway, if it's got no badge on it, to say that that was actually a Mamod or Mamod engine. Let's say they do run very well. They take a little bit of setting up, a little bit of fettling, but once they're actually running, they produce a good turn of speed, and they're able to turn quite a large workshop. It's very much a sort of a pocket rocket, the SE4, and as much as it's quite diminutive when you compare it to engines like, say, like the M122 from Bowman or the M101. That said, it's a heavy little beast. It weighs in at around about 3.5 pounds. It's very well made in terms of the solidity of the materials. Some of the machining and the engineering practices maybe leave a little bit to be desired. Certainly from for trained engineer looked at it. But that said, this is all part of the attraction of the pre-war engines and the charm that goes with them, and consequently the collectability of these particular engines has pushed the prices in some cases up into the stratosphere. But they are out there still. You can get them. I'm sure there's still lots of them sitting in cupboards and attics all over the UK and the world even, and they gradually come to the market, and so yeah, if you haven't got one yet, don't give up. They are out there. There's probably quite a few of these that have still survived. They were quite well made, well looked after. If you can get one with the plywood box as well, that adds even more to the value. My particular engine is running a Meccano countershaft wheel, which gives it a distinctive look. I mean, really, that would be an infilled solid wheel, but I've always left it on there since I purchased this one some years ago from a gentleman in Northern Ireland. So basically, there you have it. That's the Mamod SE4. I'm just going to do some final checks on this one to make sure these unions are tight, and then we'll get this fella steamed up, ready to go, and you'll be able to see what is, in case to a number of people, they're sort of holy grail in terms of collecting flat base Mamod engines, in terms of achieving and getting an SE4. So let's say if there's any more questions about the SE4 or the engines of that particular period, then feel free to visit my website at www.freesteam.co.uk or www.tripodspokesman.tripod.com, or send me an email and I'll be happy to give you some advice and hopefully try and help you with your quest for more Mamod knowledge. So anyway, we shall leave that for the moment. I'm just about to get this one ready, get some hot water going, and get my hands on some methylated spirit.